Number 1. Remember remembering. If you think back to a memory you have, is it the actual memory, or do you just remember the last time you remembered it? The brain is very fascinating and constantly adapting. Studies show that every time you remember something from the past, it will alter or distort how you remember the actual event. Other people involved will probably remember it differently from you, so if you talk about it, it can definitely reshape your own memory. Nostalgia is a great example of this. Everything was better before. Was it really though? If you try to recreate a nostalgic moment or event, you will most likely be disappointed with how it actually turns out. Number 2. Dopamine makes you addicted to seeking information. You have most likely heard about dopamine before, but let's talk about what it is and what it does. Dopamine is a type of neurotransmitter, also called a chemical messenger, because our nervous system uses it to send signals between nerve cells. It's mostly associated with how we feel pleasure, along with 3 other hormones you may have heard of, namely endorphins, serotonin, and oxytocin. We won't go into too much detail on how this works here. If you want to learn more about those, check out the description for links to other videos about that. Anyway, the way dopamine affects your mood is that it can provide an intense feeling of reward. And doing research on something that interests you will reinforce that feeling, making you want more. This is how addictions are formed. It happens faster with drugs, alcohol, and nicotine and certain types of foods, but can happen with everything. I would argue that an addiction to learning can be a good thing. But the downside with producing too much dopamine is that you will need more and more to satisfy the rewarding feeling. Here's a little fun fact for you. The Mona Lisa has no eyebrows. Number 3. The Dunning-Kruger effect. This fancy-sounding effect is a form of psychological bias. Simply put, it's a lack of self-awareness or self-assessment. It can mean that people overestimate their own competence in an area when they really lack skills and knowledge about it. You can find a lot of these self-appointed experts in social media, maybe especially in the comment sections. By contrast, we have something called imposter syndrome. People who excel at certain things and think it's naturally that easy for everyone. So they underestimate their own competence. They may be a genius without even knowing it. Number 4. Our plan A is less likely to work if we have a plan B. When venturing into the unknown, most of us will prefer to have a backup plan. It feels good to have that safety net to fall back on if your plan A fails. If you truly want your plan E to succeed, you may want to drop making a plan B and just go all in. Once you start thinking about your backup plan, your desire to achieve your main goal is likely to start decreasing. Let's look at a practical example of this. Plan B in dating. Planning an exit strategy in case the date goes badly. Like having a friend send you a fake emergency text is a classic thing you see a lot on TV. Or maybe alert your date that you have an appointment you forgot and just have to go. Either way, knowing you have that immediate out could very well put you on a path to look for reasons to do so. And you don't give them a fair chance to begin with. If you go in assuming that the worst could happen, the likelihood that it actually will happen increases. By the way, if you feel like you have gotten some value so far, please remember to subscribe to the channel for regular videos on psychology. Number 5. Uncertainty is more stressful than knowing something bad is coming. If you really think about it, I'm sure you already know this to be true from your own experience. The not knowing and making up different scenarios in your head is much more stressful than getting bad news and starting to deal with them. Uncertainty about the outcome means that you don't know how to react or what to do. This is more stressful than having a specific problem to deal with. This can apply to a lot of aspects in life, like getting your test results back, whether it's a test if you have cancer or the theoretical test for a driver's license. If you're not sure of how it goes, the wait time to know is the worst part, regardless of the results. Another example is that your vacation flight is delayed. Scenario 1, you get told that your flight is cancelled. And scenario 2, you get told that the plane is delayed indefinitely and it could potentially get cancelled. Scenario 2 will most likely stress you out way more. There are many news stories about missing persons found dead, where their loved ones were relieved to actually know what happened to them and be able to start dealing with it. People who know they have cancer aren't afraid to go see a doctor about it, but it's often a completely different story if they think they might have cancer. Now it's time for another fun fact. Did you know that it's illegal to own a single guinea pig in Switzerland? Because they are social animals and can get lonely, it's considered animal abuse to have just one. Number 6. Fear can feel good if we're not really in danger. Things like scary movies, horror stories, roller coasters, and so on. They are all considered good entertainment by a lot of people, and they all play on fear in some way. Why do we enjoy those stressful and scary moments? Because the physical thrill hormones don't necessarily disappear as soon as the threat is gone. You still feel some lingering exhilaration after the scary episode is over. Combined with the fact that deep down you probably knew you were never in any real danger to begin with. Number 7. Most things that we worry about will never actually happen. In my opinion, most people spend way too much energy on worrying about things that might happen, or might go wrong. Also, several studies have shown that about 85% of things people worry about never happen. Think about how much wasted energy and unnecessary stress that amounts to. And often, these things are out of their control anyway. You will be much happier if you learn to worry a little less and just deal with problems if they occur. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't prepare at all or plan anything, but don't try to control or prepare for every possible outcome. This also includes wasting energy on regret. You can't change the past, so stop dwelling on it. Accept whatever mistakes you made, learn from it, and move on. Number 8. It takes 5 positive things to outweigh a single negative thing. Due to what is known as negative bias, the human mind tends to find it much easier to focus on the bad than the good. We react quicker, stronger, and more persistently to negative experiences than to equally positive ones. This could be a core survival instinct to avoid danger. But with how our species has evolved, it can be more harmful than good. The so-called 5-to-1 ratio is good to keep in mind when trying to combat negative bias. Whenever you experience a negative thing, try to think of 5 positive things or thoughts. This could be recent small wins, like maybe you just lost 5 pounds, you slept better than usual last night, or maybe you had a good conversation with your mom last week. It doesn't always have to be big things. You can also do your best to spin a negative situation into something good. Look for silver linings. Say you get a temporary ban from Facebook. That feels negative, right? Now you can finally do something more productive than spending hours scrolling on your feed. Time for one last little fun fact. Did you know that Queen Elizabeth II was a trained mechanic? Number 9. We aren't as good at multitasking as we think we are. The short explanation is, there is no such thing as multitasking. Not in the sense that most people perceive it anyway. It's actually not possible for the human mind to split focus on different tasks simultaneously. You can get pretty good at switching your focus between things fast. So fast that it may feel like you're doing it both at once, but you're not. All studies agree that it's much more productive to finish one task before moving on to the next. Bottom line is, try to avoid multitasking as much as possible. Number 10. We always try to return a favor. If you receive a gift from someone, you feel obligated to give something back, right? Most of the time anyway. And the fancy term for this is the psychological principle of reciprocity. Reciprocity can be a powerful tool to influence people. A good example of this is when salespeople give out gifts and trinkets to potential clients, or sales videos that really make you feel like you learned a lot, so they have done you a favor. You may not consciously feel that you owe them something, but it's proven to influence your decision. And then you have beggars that come to your stopped car and wash your windshield. This makes you more likely to give them some money, because you want to avoid that feeling of obligation. When you are more aware of this psychological phenomenon, you can avoid being taken advantage of in situations like that. Make sure to check out this next video as well, as it can be a true life changer.